Should you summon for Sun Wukong, who is returning to limited banner rate up tomorrow in Watcher of Realms? This is the fastest return to a limited featured banner we have ever seen for an exclusive hero in Watcher of Realms. It has been just over 5 months, so not even half a year since mid-December when Wukong had his original feature, his rate up when he was introduced to the game. And this is an exciting one, without a doubt, right? Wukong is one of the single best characters in the game, and when it comes to elite top-tier boss DPS, he's about as good as it's going to get. There are certain characters for certain things that are better than Wukong now, and I think for that reason, some people, certainly not all people, I think a lot of people appreciate how good he still is, but some people, I think, have started to undervalue him. And while I do think there's a specific argument kind of in favor of that, more globally, broadly, for any normal player, that argument is baloney. That is nothing. Wukong is unbelievable. Unbelievable. He's the best A0 DPS in the game. It's like him and Numera are in a total league of their own when it comes to top-tier quality boss-killing damage for an A0 unit. So Wukong, he's getting his rate up. He's alongside Selkath, just like he was back in December, right before Christmas. Selkath is a total joke. That's the last time you'll hear me mention him in this video. But Wukong is the opposite of a joke. He's pretty freaking phenomenal. However, as I break down the question, should you summon, there are a lot of things we have to consider. We know of a lot of good things that are coming. We can be confident that there's a lot of other good things coming that we don't know about. And then, of course, the big thing, and the first thing I want to unpack in this video, a lot of people already have Wukong and have already dumped so many soul stones into him. So that adds all these other layers of, oh my God, what should I do? Very important, guys. We are going to have an amazing Wukong Pulse Party live on YouTube here on my channel. However, we're not doing it tomorrow. We're not doing it on Thursday. We will do it on Friday, May 30th. That's because I think the vast majority of players like myself will want to do some kind of pity manipulation or have that option available with the amazing Yuri and Phineas banner. So I think we'll just concentrate all the summoning on Friday. If you don't want to do pity manipulation, but you want me to do your summons, just be patient and wait a day, and you can absolutely sign up for Friday. But I'm not going to do a pulse party on both days. So just on Friday, May 30th, please sign up. Link in the description, top pin comment. Hope to see you there. A lot of people got their base copy and put 3 or 5 soul stones into him. I did not. I still have my A0 Wukong. And actually, I want to quickly say I'm not on my account right now. I'm about to do a takeover after I film. So shout out to Mythstorm. So I'm going to be telling you a lot about my account, but I'll also use his account as an example as someone who doesn't have Wukong. So simply, if you don't have Wukong, you must go for this. But like I said, there's a lot to unpack. So I think we'll start by discussing, should you go for him depending on how many copies you already have, and then discussing the current climate in the game with unpolished soul stones and especially reset books, which are so enormously rare, the rarest single resource in the entire game. And then we'll talk about, weighing pros and cons versus unloading for Wukong now, or maybe waiting for a Kiri rerun or the crazy stuff they're going to have planned for the anniversary. Anyway, it's Wukong discussion time. So first things first, let's just go through, should you summon in the different situations, depending on if you have him, if you don't have him, and how much of him do you have? Like, do you have him, and then how many awakenings, right? So first things first, this is a limited exclusive banner, event exclusive. What does that mean? You are guaranteed to get Wukong by your 200th summon. That means if you have not pulled him in your first 199 summons on this banner, number 200, 100% guaranteed, will be Sun Wukong. However, if you pull him before that, the condition is fulfilled, the within 200 happens, and then you are not guaranteed to get him right at 200. But because if you are not lucky enough to get him until 200, you're getting him at 200, you are empowered by that knowledge and by that situation. So think about it this way, right? I've done many, many, many videos and primers and for dummy kind of breakdowns on how pity manipulation works. Go check that stuff out. But let me just give you the cleanest example of pity manipulation. You're pulling for Sun Wukong. You're off a fresh pity. You were pulling for Vorn last week or Numera the week before, something like that. So a fresh pity. Pity kicks in at 180, and if you're on a fresh pity, You do 180 summons on the Wukong banner. You have now entered soft pity. The hard pity guarantee will be 200, but obviously you're going to get him before 200. But you also have a separate thing where you have the Wukong exclusive guarantee that you will get him at number 200. So when you hit that 180 in that scenario where you have to go to full pity for him, you could switch on Friday, Saturday, Sunday to the Yuri Phineas banner, which is an amazing banner we'll discuss in a video pretty soon after this one comes out, probably tomorrow. And you basically could pick up a legendary there, come back and get Wukong in 15, 20 summons, whatever it is. So for that reason alone, the vast majority of players should go for him just because he's an event-exclusive limited character, and this 200 guarantee makes this banner essentially a locked-in 2x. You know, even if you just stuck on this banner, unless your first legendary you hit was Wukong, you're guaranteed minimum 2 legendaries in those 200 summons. Because if the first one isn't Wukong, you know you're going to get Wukong by 200, and then you get whatever the first one was. So this locks in a pretty phenomenal rate. So for that reason alone, the vast majority of players absolutely should go for Wukong. The other reason, obviously, is he's amazing. He's just phenomenal. I don't think I'm going to put out a guide on him this week because I did a lot of guides on him, and I had the big super guide I did on him, and you should definitely go check that stuff out. That was back the first time they ran his banner only 5 months ago. But essentially, Wukong in 30 seconds, right? Phenomenal burst damage here, an 18x hitter with stuns. The stuns only register once or twice depending on the content, but it's pretty good. He throws out these clones. These clones can absorb damage. They can deal a lot of damage. They're just really, really potent. Other opportunities, you can inflict stuns and extra damage. You can build this thing called Sunder, and when you ult, if you have 5 stacks of Sunder, you're going to start ignoring defense. The whole kit is so strong. He's just an amazing single target DPS with a ton of burst, and because of his clones, functionally for certain things, he'll never feel like an AoE, but he can feel like a single target plus, because he can do a couple other cool things. The clone's taking up space, hitting multiple targets. It's pretty good. However, he's really a single target at his core. When it comes to the Awakenings, the A1 over here, I don't think it matters much. The A2, it doesn't matter much. The A3 is God tier. The A5 is God tier. So I just want to get that out of the way because we're going to be circling back to those Awakenings a lot. Actually, very shortly, we're going to be circling back to them as we talk about who should keep pulling for him and who should not. So first things first, let's say you're like Mythstorm over here, right? He's this account, 5.7 mil, level 81. And if we go to the gallery, you may have noticed already, he does not have the Monkey King, right? He does not have Sun Wukong. If you don't have Sun Wukong, you better go for him. I don't care if Kagiri's coming next week. It's as simple as that. You'll find a way. You can scrap it together. Maybe if Kagiri's literally next week, but he won't be. That's impossible. If it was 2 weeks, you could find a way. And it won't be 2 weeks either. But he is top tier, and he's guaranteed. And if you don't have the copy, even at A0, he's supremely powerful. As I mentioned earlier in this video, he, in my opinion, ties Numera for the strongest A0 boss DPS in the game. I mean, it's nuts. It is, he just works already. Right out of the box, he works. I will say, if you want some comparisons to how he stacks up to other units, I find him at A0 to be comparable to Twilight at A1. Twilight, for many things, for physical DPS, is the best boss DPS in the game for a lot of stuff. Non-Lord, non-magic boss DPS. I'll say Twilight A3 I find to be a little bit stronger for certain content, especially like APOC 2 than Wukong. But aside from that, Wukong just is better than everyone else after that besides Kagiri. Right? So the second you get Wukong A3, he's significantly better than Twilight, like significantly. And A5, he's second only to A5 Kagiri for tons and tons of content. Speaking of Kagiri, because that's who a lot of people are wondering about, they're like, do I actually go for Wukong or should I be waiting for Kagiri? For almost all content, full stop, Wukong is strictly better than Kagiri. Kagiri cannot hold a candle. He cannot hold a candle to Wukong until he gets A3. And his A3 puts him above Wukong for a lot of boss content. For a lot of non-boss content too. Kagiri at A3 plus is a whole new character. Kagiri's DPS at A0 is a fraction of Twilight. We're talking less than half of her DPS for boss content. If you take them into APOC, you'll be shocked at how little he does. And you'll have watched videos and be like, I saw Prospector put up the biggest Kagiri number I ever saw, and my Kagiri sucks. It's because your Kagiri's not A3 or higher. Also, Prospector has much better gear than you, I'm sure, if that's the situation. But no, it's the Awakenings, right? Kagiri, no one gets a DPS glow up more significant in this game than Kagiri as you go from A0, A1, A2 to finally getting A3. For that reason, if you're in this tight spot and you want to be ultra hyper crazy conservative, Kagiri's Awakenings are so much more powerful than Wukong. A3 Kagiri is pretty comparable to Wukong. For a lot of content, it's kind of a wash. It's only really Abyss that Kagiri is so much better, and I'll show you those stats in just one moment. Similarly, at A5, it's pretty close. I would still prefer Kagiri, but people are acting like Wukong's some chump. Outside of Abyss 1, Wukong is kind of there with Kagiri step for step. But the key thing, and the reason I do think Kagiri's the value, is A0 Wukong is great. Like, the boss DPS is already really, really good. Kagiri's really isn't. It really isn't. Like, he's worse than Lust. He's worse than Arrogance. I'm talking A0 or any Awakenings. It doesn't matter. Valeria, he's going to be worse than all of these guys, right? It's not like he's terrible, but he's like 6 out of 10. Whereas A3, he's like 9.5, 10 out of 10. It's phenomenal. Speaking of Abyss 1, though, because this is going to be a big topic as people decide when you're weighing. I mean, most people are going to go for Wukong, but if you're like, how hard should I go? If you don't have A5 yet, how hard should I be hunting these multiple Awakenings? It is true that for Abyss 1, Kagiri is in a league of his own. So let me show you here, top team on the global server right now. Kagiri's coming in at basically 190. Wukong's at 136. I can show you some more examples. Let's just click on this team here. We got Kagiri at 180, Wukong at 105. And then here's one I wanted to shout out. We got an A3 Kagiri lying around somewhere I was able to find. Most people on the top here all have A5 Kagiri, but I did see an A3 Kagiri. Was it Jengson over here? Yes. So this is an A3 Kagiri versus an A5 Wukong. And once you know it, Kagiri's still coming in with 21 million more damage. So for Abyss specifically, if you can get A3 plus Kagiri, he is the god. But it's not like Wukong's a schlub. Granted, all the Wukongs we're seeing here are A5, but I mean, he's still beating Numera here. I mean, it's different how the things are distributed between the physical and the magic. You know, it's basically different phases of the battle. But at its core, he's doing better than Numera, right? And we're talking about an A3 Numera at that. Granted, this is an A5 Wukong, and if it was A3 and A3, I think Numera would have the edge. Here's actually a good example. We got an A4 Numera and an A5 Wukong, and you can see Numera does pull ahead. Depends on the lord, depends on the situation, but one thing is a fact. When it comes to the limiteds and who benefits the most from Awakenings, you guys could see there, what happens to Yuri is phenomenal. So obviously, if you don't have Wukong, I covered it. Please summon for him. Please, please, please. Like, absolutely do it. The only way I'd consider not doing it is if you really can't guarantee you're going to make the 200. I think a lot of people probably should still gamble and roll the dice because you have a lot of time to save up till the next limited. I can't imagine the next limited will come sooner than 4 weeks from now. I'd think at the earliest, the second half of June, at the absolute earliest, like 3-4 weeks from now. But likely it's probably going to be maybe 2 limited stacked around the anniversary, which if you didn't know, I see a lot of people saying the anniversary is basically here. That's just not true. The anniversary this year, the devs announced internally, will be in the middle of July. So they might do kickoff festivities end of June, beginning of July, but very likely it will be this week here, the week of July 14th. So you have time. But yeah, if you can't guarantee the 200, it is a gamble, right? Then it's just like a normal banner, and we all see how a lot of people can get screwed on the normal banners. But between your summons and your diamonds, if you can get to the 200, do it. So actually, tough example here for Mythstorm, he cannot do it. However, you might be surprised how many he could save if he really scraps everything together by the end of the weekend. But yeah, frankly, this is a tough situation to be in, right? You can use the calculator on my website. You can go to fastidious.gg and you can use the max summons calculator, and actually you'll see he's a pretty far ways off. What we do here is we just transfer those diamonds into summons. The rare summons are already summons, and then we calculate this continuous rebate. This is as you summon and you pull rares. If you were to be selling them off for diamonds and continue to summon with those diamonds, then get more rares, sell them off, continue that process. On average, how many summons would you be looking at? So here he's got 24 and 2,000. You're going to see it's more than you think, but it's definitely not 200, right? 52. So certainly he could get at least another 50 between the diamonds and the summons by the end of the weekend, by Monday. Could he get much more? I think he's in a tight spot. I like to say you want to have this number heading into the banner at about 120, and then you'll probably be able to scrape together by Monday, right? You get your Semra awards, you get all those guild bosses, you get the events. Typically it's easier, I will say, and they are slightly screwing you guys right now. because this is the first time ever we've had a limited banner without a limited event along with it. Even the old rerun banners, they always would have like a rerun of the old Wukong event, which obviously has a lot of freebies. They are doing this Infernal sign-in, and they are doing this Wizard's Horde where you can get Wukong's weapon, his exclusive artifact. But yeah, it's going to be harder than normal. But if you can guarantee you can get there and you don't have Wukong, please go for him. Moving on, if you have him already, but you don't have more copies, you got to start thinking about your soul stones. I think the vast majority of people, if you can comfortably get to the 200, there's no one that shouldn't do it. If you don't have A5 Wukong, there's no one that shouldn't just pick up that copy. Because like I said, you're guaranteed either to hit him early or to get at least 2 legendaries within those 200. And a lot of people will get like 3. And if you're really lucky, you'll get 4 or more. But everyone's guaranteed 2 if you have to go to the 200. And if you don't, good problem to have. Even if it's only the 1, it means you got an early Wukong. You can save a bunch of summons. No reason not to pick up that extra dupe. As it stands now, they still give us a fairly decent amount of soul stones through freebies and gifts, though the drop rates in Guild Boss can be really tough for a lot of players. But, there aren't enough super desirable units like the Unnamables and the Limiteds, who are the unpolished soulstone targets that you want to give unpolished soulstones, that I could see anything changing anytime soon that Wukong would stop being a top tier soulstone candidate. I do think he's below Kiri at this point for most accounts, but that he's right after him. So, some people, if you're really into PvP, you might be very inclined to go for Honora. Maybe you want to go for the dragons, the Unnamables over here. But after that, you get your A1 Diao Chan, and then it's Kiri and it's Wukong. And frankly, I think it's much more important. Get your A3 Kiri. Don't get A5 Kiri until you then get your A3 Wukong. So for that reason, even if you already have the copy, or even if you have A1, basically by pulling him and getting that guarantee, it's a free soulstone, because otherwise you were going to have to soulstone him. So for me, on my account, currently I actually have A0 Wukong and A0 Kiri, and I have 5 unpolished soulstones I've been sitting on forever. I'm going to summon fairly hard on the Wukong banner, a little beyond the guarantee, just given my situation, to see if I can't pick up like 2 copies, go to A2, and then I still have my 5 soulstones. I know my situation is unique. I've been saving for a while. But then if I had that situation, I could put 1 into Wukong, 3 into Kiri. I've been both at A3, and then I have 1 left over for whoever the next limited is, assuming that limited is going to be very good. So these are the things you should be thinking about. But, TLDR, if you can guarantee you're going to get to that 200, there's no reason not to do it. If you don't have Wukong, you have A1 Wukong, A2 Wukong. Let's say you have A3 Wukong. To me, nothing has changed because Wukong's A5 glow up is really strong. I would say I find the jump A3 to A5 Wukong to be stronger than A3 Kiri to A5 Kiri in my personal playing experience and some testing I've done. Kagiri's better, so you're still probably that's the one you want A5, or at least the one I would want A5 for the content I'm focusing. But I will say, if you're a younger account with a more broad focus and you just want this is my goated hero, I think Wukong probably has the edge if you look at a broader array of content. But yeah, Kagiri's huge jump is just he completely transforms with A3. He gets better at A5, whereas Wukong never completely transforms, but he just gets really good and then really, really good, and he's just crazy, right? If you have him A3, though, why wouldn't you want him A5? Again, this is assuming you can guarantee you're going to get to the 200. I would say if you have him A3 and you're like in a situation like Mythstorm and you're not going to get really lucky or gamble or spend some money, I don't know if I would pull without knowing I can hit the guarantee for the A4. Because then at that point, it's like, who knows when you're going to get your next soul stone, and if it's going to be worth it, and it's inherently a gamble. But for any of those people, A3 or at A3, certainly I'd say if you can get to the 200, please do it. If you're at A4, at that point I would even gamble, even if you can't guarantee the 200. Because if you get lucky and hit the A5, that is God tier, and you save a soul stone. So to me, that's worthy. Hopefully you've been saving just like we've all been telling you to, or I'm assuming other creators have. I've been telling you to, and I've just been preaching, and let me just take a moment to do this. Never dip below reserves. So when I say reserves, it's whatever that combination of blue, rare summoning crystals and diamonds that equate to like 120 to 140 summons when you throw them into my calculator, right? So I'll do a quick example right now. It would be something like this, right? Something like that, 121, 55 rare summon crystals, 4,500 diamonds. Or if you want to think of it a little more simply, maybe just it's like keep an extra 10,000 diamonds on hand at all times, right? If we did it that way, let's throw a 0. That's 130 summons. That'll get you to the finish line by Monday in any situation. Honestly, if you're a daily player, it would. If you're not a daily player, make it 12,000, or just don't even do it in diamonds, count it in summoning crystals, make it 150, right? But just like try to stay on top of it. It's really as simple as that. Please do that. Or even if you're doing summoning crystals, you could have it at 130 because that would rebate out to 150. But you should not overextend yourself. I know people are excited about Numera and Vorn, but you're always taking a risk. Like you should be ready at any time to have enough for that limited guarantee. So yeah, like I said, at A4, I think you can consider gambling. Before that, I do not think personally I would do it in most situations. I'm really talking about free to play and low spender. If you can't guarantee you're getting to 200, because at that point you're just kind of burning resources, I guess you could go up towards a pity and then pick a moment to stop. But to me, that's a pretty big gamble. But if you can get to 200, not having him all the way up through A4, up through A3, do it. And then at A4, maybe worth the gamble because that A5 is really great. Now, the big thing, the thing people keep asking me, hey, I already have A5 Wukong. I put 5 soul stones into him, or I put 4 soul stones into him. Should I still pull on this? And I hear a lot of people saying yes, and that's a little crazy. For big spenders, for big savers, anything like that, if you're really well stocked, do it. You're going to pick up a unit along the way at a minimum, plus the Wukong. So worst case, you do 200 summons and you only get like the one random legendary you pull and the Wukong sits on your bench forever unused because you already had A5. But I hear a lot of people saying, yeah, but you can use a reset book and unlock those soul stones, right? So there's no one in the game I can imagine, unless you're hyper crazy focused on PvP and you have no interest in Wukong there, which I guess if you're really meta oriented and really PvP focused and pretty endgame, that could be a person. But like, you're not going to reset Wukong if you put 5 soul stones into him and then pull the dupe and then have A1 Wukong, because that's the same as A0 Wukong. So basically what you're doing is you're like counting on that you're going to take 4 or 5 soul stones back, put in the new dupe, put a couple soul stones back, and you freed up 2 or 3 soul stones, which definitely is something. But the big investment that people are sleeping on is the reset book itself. There's nothing rare in the game. You can see here on Mythstorm's account, he has only 1. They've only given 2 away ever, and they've only actually gifted us 1. They've only actually intentionally made 1 available. The other one was from March 2024, and it was compensation from the big Boreas nerf debacle. So with that in mind, in their mind, besides compensation that, I advocated heavily for, I think I called it a reset tome at the time. I know other people, I'm not trying to take credit, other people talked about this too, but like creators, community members, people on Discord were saying, we need a reset currency. I sent them a lot of examples from other games, how they do it. And then they created the currency to solve that problem, right? And then to them, for almost a year, it was like, all right, done with that. And then they threw in this crazy Christmas, New Year's surprise with the Frostfall Jamboree, where they actually gave us 1. But aside from the F-up and then the compensation we got because of an F-up, they've only actually given us this reward once. It's the rarest resource in the game. So yes, are soul stones super important? Sure. But is this the right way to do it? I don't think so. Especially because people are going to go most people would go and just reuse those soul stones on Wukong. So what do I mean by that? To make it perfectly clear, you pulled A1 Wukong last time, you put 4 soul stones into him. Now this time you get your guaranteed copy. So effectively you have A6, you reset the old copy, you get 4 soul stones back. You still have to put in the new copy and another soul stone. You did free up 3 soul stones, but the cost to do it was using the single rarest resource in the game, which we may never get again. We don't know. I've pestered the devs on this the past couple months because players ask me all the time and they will not give me a straight answer. Typically, they'll be vague, but they'll be like, we have something planned. Nothing like that. They said, currently, we have no information we can share about the availability of reset books. I think that's almost exactly what they told me. So with that in mind, if you have A5, you can do it as long as you're fully prepared to just have him stashed for a while. But I really wouldn't encourage the vast majority of players to do it and then use the reset book. The players I would say that should do it are the ones that used a full 5 soul stones. And then you can think of it as, well, hey, I'm freeing up 3 soul stones, right? You're getting 5 back, and then you only have to use 2 because you have the new dupe to get A1. and then the 2 more copies. So you're freeing up 3 soul stones. Anyone, or I mean, there are other situations. Any situation you could free up 3 soul stones. I think that's close. I wouldn't do it, but I see why people would do it. And then the biggest example of someone that should do it is just if your account's freaking sick and you feel like you don't need Wukong, you really want to get an A3 or an A5 Anora, or you merit for PvP stuff, or you're just your account's so strong, your Kagiri's handling a ton of business. That would never be me, but if that's you and you're not even planning to reinvest those soul stones into Wukong, then by all means, I mean, then you'd be freeing up 4 or 5 soul stones, and that's worthy to me. But the cost of expending your reset book is pretty extreme in my opinion. Okay, let me catch my breath. That was a lot of stuff. Let's talk about just comparing and contrasting him with what is to come. Without a doubt, we will get a limited somewhere right before or right after the anniversary, which I told you is in mid-July, which is what, roughly 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks from now. It's about 1.5 to 2 months from now. It has to be a new one. They're not going to run so many reruns in a row, right? We've had a bunch of reruns in a row now. The last new one was February with Diao Chan. They might run a rerun right around the same time, like maybe 2 weeks before, 4 weeks before, or 4 weeks after, something like that. But we are due for a new one. And if you follow the trajectory of the quality of the last 4 limited heroes, we've got Anora, amazing. Kagiri, amazing. Wukong, amazing. Diao Chan, amazing. All must-have units. So I'd be shocked if the Anniversary Limited is not a new, amazing must-have unit, right? The other wrinkle is Kagiri. Oh, and by the way, I have no idea what the next new limited will be. Then we've got Kagiri. They've said in the dev Q&A he is coming. They never said he's on the schedule like they did with Faircy a week ago and Wukong now a week ago, but talking about now. So we don't have any teaser that he's coming soon, but for sure they said we're planning on it and he's coming. So I would be shocked if we don't get Kagiri within the next 3 months. So that might sound like a long amount of time to you guys, but I'd say by like very, very early September, I'd be shocked if we have not had a Kagiri rerun. And gun to my head, I would say they'll probably do it plus or minus a couple weeks with the anniversary. So again, let's just say roughly the anniversary, right? They're going to run these things on Thursdays. Let's say it's going to be on July the 10th, July the 17th. That's probably when they're going to kick off the anniversary. Maybe a week or 2 before, they're going to run one limited, and I think a week or 2 after, they'll run another. They did that with Dahlia and Anora last year. They had those guys. It was the closest we ever had limited banners. They were like 4 weeks apart, 3 or 4 weeks apart. So I could see them doing that, and I would really think one would be Kagiri. So in my opinion, I think what they're going to do, maybe like end of June, beginning of July, 4 or 5 weeks from now, maximum 6 weeks, they'll run a new limited. And then I'd think 3, 4, 5 weeks after that, they'll run Kagiri. And everyone that doesn't have A5 Kagiri should be excited about that because you're going to want to load up on dupes. I hope that gives you enough powerful information. The video is getting a little long in the tooth, so I think I want to wrap it up here. If there's anything you wish I addressed that I didn't address in this video, please let me know in the comments. And yeah, guys, it should be a really, really fun weekend. I didn't talk about the other banners because I'm talking about them in other videos tomorrow and the next day. But this Yuri Phineas banner, it's not must summon for most players, but it's an amazing banner. These are 2 extremely relevant units right now. And then I'll say this Cassiel banner, I'm going to tell most people not to summon on it just because I think you should decide based on the Lord. But hey, if you're on a fresh pity, Cassiel looks nutty. So if you're willing to risk resending your Lord pity because you're early into your pity anyway, you don't mind accidentally getting a Raka, this guy's pretty crazy, so I wouldn't blame you. Lot more stuff to come, though. Don't worry. Quick reminder, the Wukong Summon Party will be on Friday. It will not be tomorrow, so it'll be on May the 30th. Again, that link will be in the description and the top pinned comment. That's because I envision most people want to do pity manipulation, so you want to do it on a day when there's another banner, aka the Yuri and Phineas banner. But yeah, that'll be a big pulse party. I don't intend on doing a Cassiel pulse party, but if you're interested, you can tell me in the comments. But otherwise, the one will just be Friday, Wukong plus Yuri and Phineas. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Fastidious. Share it with your mother. Let me know any thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.